When I was in the 4th grade, a boy, completely unprompted, decided to unload upon me his opinion that girls were weak. So I decided to play basketball for 4 years after, just to spite him. Now, I don't play basketball anymore, and I don't think about that experience often. However, its implications have stayed with me for a while. His mindset reflected something larger about society, something that both infuriated me and piqued my curiosity. My first experience with feminism was from a talk that I had at my middle school. It was a quick and relatively meaningless discussion along the lines of, it's a thing of the past, we don't need it anymore, case closed. It was pretty clear that our school didn't find it too important and expected us to skip it over as well. Naturally, the pull towards feminism was instantaneous. From then, I decided that I was going to take whatever opportunity I could to be a part of the movement. I learned from theory, read about local events, and studied poetry. I found the movement incredible. It gave me a space to discuss society, and it was empowering to finally have the opportunity to actively participate in creating change. To me, feminism meant creating a better, more equal world, helping every girl. However, I began to take issue with the mainstream manifestation of the movement, especially in how it affected me and my behavior. The message of the cause began to feel excluding, promoting an ideal unachievable for women of color like me. Society tends to think of feminism as a movement dedicated solely towards advancing women. Its end goal, rather, is equality for all people, irrespective of gender. Its initial 3 waves were focused on equality in education, the workforce, and diversity. 4th wave feminism is a creation of the last 10 years, especially focused on spreading empowerment through technology. I learned about feminism mainly through literature from and about the first 3 waves. Thus, realizing that my contributions to the movement were a part of the 4th wave began to give me pause, especially as I found myself increasingly unable to identify with its majority voice. Eventually, looking with a more critical eye, I began to find some parts of the movement, especially its tenets and central figures, disconcerting. In anthropology, push and pull factors describe reasons why people leave or join communities. For me, there were 2 major pushes that I simply could not ignore. The first was the rise of girl boss feminism. The term was coined by Sophia Amoruso, owner of fast fashion business Nasty Gal. It defines powerful women as those who face the struggles of patriarchy but succeed nonetheless. It encourages women to empower themselves and rise up in the framework of patriarchy, essentially instructing us to fight to survive in the system in which we live. When I first heard about the stories of these women, they seemed incredibly empowering. Despite dealing with so much, they managed to rise in the system in which they lived and now are incredibly successful. I mean, what better example for a feminist icon than someone who managed to survive the patriarchy? Now, I'm not discounting what these women have accomplished. However, many seem to forget that girl bosses often step over others. Amoruso, for instance, puts her workers in unlivable conditions and pays them unlivable wages. Girl boss feminism conflates success with working with the patriarchy. The end result, the exploitation of many is rewarded with the praise of the individual. Now, is it just me that sees an issue with that? The idea of a girl boss makes it seem like achieving social and economic prominence is equally possible for everyone, when in reality, it's far more complex. Women are encouraged to put each other down in favor of becoming more wealthy. Rather than helping to create women create their own place in society by elevating us as a whole, girl boss feminism encourages us to partake in the unequal standards of patriarchy. If you want to be economically successful, you have to be willing to walk over others. If you want to be socially prominent, you have to be willing to silence others. Girlboss feminism creates the rather dangerous notion that one can achieve anything, no matter what, by working hard enough, no matter what field they work in. This, of course, ignores the multiple societal barriers that unequally affect specific groups. For example, women of color, like me. And that's where my second push factor comes in. I'm Indian, something quite hard to miss about me. I was born and raised in America, probably also pretty easy to tell. As a first-generation Indian American, my identity constantly shifts as I learn more about my culture and how it intersects with the culture that I've been raised in my entire life. I could not understand why I struggled so deeply to reconcile myself with this wave's icons until I learned about the dominance of white feminism in the movement. White feminism creates the idea that feminism is the same irrespective of racial identity, making it seem as if every woman faces the same societal burdens. This, of course, ignores the fact that we live in a world that is not only patriarchal, but racially unequal. White feminism promises women of color that if they simply follow its overarching message and work their hardest, they too will be able to achieve social and economic prominence. And this, equality for women of color, is made to look far easier than it actually is. For a period of time, I thought that this promise of simply working my hardest was true. So I tried my hardest to leave my culture behind. I barely learned Tamil and generally avoided anything to do with my roots. At times, this made me deeply insecure. To some, I was a studying machine, apparently incapable of deep thought on my own identity. To others, I was a coconut. My mannerisms and personality were too white for them. So, this all begs the question, if I think feminism is harmful at times, do I still consider myself a feminist? Absolutely. And that is because I have found hope in the promise of change. And I have found this hope by working in intersectional feminism, or feminism that seeks to embrace each person's individual and unique experiences. My own complex identity, a result of my life, my experiences, and everything that makes me uniquely me. By considering myself in totality, I've been able to view myself in a completely different way. Not just a woman, but an Indian woman. And not just an Indian woman, but one who's been raised in an American culture. Recently, I've been working to reconnect to the part of myself that I blocked off. I've been able to rediscover who I am, relearning my entire identity piece by piece. This hasn't been instantaneous. It's been a slow and difficult process. Dancing to Bollywood, wearing Indian clothes more often, relearning Tamil from a beginner level, which is going horribly, by the way. It's slow, and it's tiring, and quite often, I want to give it up. However, I've realized that it's a necessary process. Intersectional feminism has helped me fix the harms to my self-view that white feminism did. I've been able to come back to terms with myself as an Indian person, relearning the parts of my identity that I blocked off. And in doing so, I've been able to see how different parts of my identity intersect, looking at aspects of myself like my race, gender, and class more acutely. I've also been able to see how I can affect the movement, serving as a board member of my school's intersectional feminist club, and working to reduce educational inequity with girls in India. In all of this, I've realized that feminism is something to be shaped. It changes with each person, and it has no set definition. And only by factoring in not just my experiences, but everyone's experiences, can a truly helpful and holistic version of the movement be created. This isn't easy by any means, but it's something that has to happen. And it can only happen by all of us realizing that different parts of our identity are not separate. Rather, they compound and complement each other. All of you, as people, have your own identities that are varied from those you meet in ways that are sometimes subtle, sometimes pronounced. However, realizing these differences are key to realizing how you interact with society and vice versa. Only in stepping back and seeing the whole can you truly see yourself. Thank you.